Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Sandeep Pednekar, and you're watching One Universe, the talk show that's based on the non-profit One Universe that fosters positivity through the promotion of love, peace, and harmony. So, what is fostering positivity, the promotion of love, peace, and harmony? Well, we are going to take one aspect of our life, maybe several aspects, and it may be all of these aspects, maybe 0.001% of everything that we do. But if you consider the topic that we are going to discuss with our guest today, you will understand how important it is. So, welcome to our show, Sandra Wilson.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And for the benefit of our listeners, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sandra Wilson, and I am a certified domestic violence counselor. I am a native Memphian. I grew up in Memphis. I went to elementary school, Commons Elementary, Roselle Elementary, and also went to junior high and graduated from Hamilton High School here in Memphis. And I went to nursing school here in Memphis as well. I got a diploma degree from Methodist School of Nursing. And then I went to the University of Memphis and got my Bachelor's of Science, BSN in nursing. So I'm just recently retired from nursing. I have been nursing for 40 years. I started out in the hospitals, nursing, did travel nursing, did correctional nursing, and just retired a little over a year and a half ago. But I have one brother and four sisters, and lots of nieces and nephews. Have a big family.
Very nice, very nice. So after, I know you said you just retired, and I was about to say you did your education that was 2 years ago. So
Oh, I wish. But believe it or not, I am 66 years old in January. I'll be 66.
Very nice. You are blessed. So you mentioned that you are associated with domestic violence issues, and that you got into this. So tell us about your personal life and your relationships, and what you saw in the community, in the society, or your personal life that in fact turned you towards handling issues of domestic violence.
Yes. Well, yes, God rescued me out of two abusive marriages. My first marriage was abusive, physical abuse, verbal abuse. And I went from one abusive marriage to a second abusive marriage. And that marriage was even more abusive. So I have firsthand knowledge about the horrors of abuse and what abuse can do to a person mentally, emotionally, physically, your health issues involved. So I know firsthand. And it's just an awful captivity for anyone to be in, because abuse is a crime. No one should have to live with abuse or be living in abuse. Abuse is a crime, and it takes a person's rights away. And so abuse is learned and chosen and maintained strategies and techniques that abusers do to targets of abuse, to try to get control and power and authority and dominion over that person. And so
I would
I know.
Can I ask you, what were the abuses that you went through, both in your first and second marriage? So what were your personal experiences?
With the first marriage, you know, most of the times abuse is pretty much predictable behaviors, and they are pretty much are behaviors
These
that
are, when you say predictable, these are predictable by the perpetrator as well as the victims.
there are predictable responses from the victims, but the behavior per se of the abuser is pretty much predictable. A lot of times, you know, they target the person that they want to abuse. They are looking for someone that will be like an easy target for them. And this is usually someone that is needy. You know, it's 6 phases that the abusers take their targets of abuse through. And first is just the target the person. They're looking for someone that will be an easy target, someone that tells all, someone that has a fantasy, living a fantasy of wanting to be rescued, someone that maybe have needs that have not been met, needs that they have not healed from in the past. And that was my situation. You know, I was, you know, in relationships to where I was in love with being in love, you know, and you have to be careful not to tell all. And, you know, and that's one of the things that targets of abuse have to be careful to not tell everything, because it can be used against you, rather than used to help you. It can be used against you as a fault. And so, and that was my situation, especially in the second marriage. I had not healed from the first marriage, so I was, you know, more vulnerable. And with the second marriage, that person was my insurance agent to try to get a closing of my home. And so they already knew all the information about me. And so I was a target, a financial target, you know, and little did I know that the abuser, you know, was targeting me, because, you know, initially when they're targeting someone, they're going to be having a best foot forward. You know, they're going to be charming. They're going to say the right things, do the right things, look the right way. And so a lot of times targets of abuse have no idea that they're being targeted, you know, and you know, that's what happened in my relationship. I had no idea, you know, and it moved on from there to being seduced. Seduced is, you know, when they're trying to get you to let your guard down. They're trying to get you to make a quick commitment. And that's one of the things for targets of abuse to realize, is that what's important is not how the person looks on the outside, but you have to make sure you know the person on the inside. The inside is more important, because the outer appearance can fool and trick you. And also, they want to get a quick commitment. And that was my situation. The abusers wanted to get a quick commitment. And we were married for in 3 months of meeting. And that's what abusers want to do, because they're acting, they're pretending. So they want to get a quick movement of a committed relationship in a in the relationship, or they quickly will get married, because abusers don't mind marrying, because they can easily plan on getting out of it in the first place. Most abusers have a high marriage rate, because they go from relationship to relationship, just ruining lives as they go, just getting whatever they can get from the person. A lot of times they're in the relationship for financial means and financial gain. And so targets of abuse have to remember to not allow someone to manipulate them into a fast movement, but to also put someone through the test of time. And that's what I've learned that I should have done. Not allow myself to be put into a quick commitment, but to put someone through the test of time. You know, the Bible tells us that we need to prove a person, mark a person, examine a person. And so the test of time would soon expose lies. So it behooves us as individuals, if we want to stay out of abuse, to make sure that, we look at a person's inner being rather than their outer appearance. And we put them through the test of time. And we have to make sure also that we're healed, that, we're not sending vibes of being needy, and that's one thing, if you're in a situation in life to where, you don't feel up to par, or you feel like there's things in your life that are missing, it's best not to get into an intimate relationship until you get those areas healed, until you get, the things that you need. And I
So
like how the
basically, that's
Bible,
a bounce back relationship.
huh?
Bounce back out when you're down and out with a relationship. There is a huge gap that is left, and you want to fill in that gap, and then boom, somebody comes along, and even a small ray of hope, a small good deed done by that person is taken as, he's the one or she's the one,
Right.
and then you want to bounce back and say, hey, I want to feel good, this is the best way, and you disregard other signs, maybe. And they always say that love is blind, so you overlook some of the nuances or even big issues many times, and then you say, well, you know what, love is the answer, love is enough, it will take over all of the problems. Unfortunately, love is not
That's not.
necessarily enough. It is enough
No,
if it is love and compromise from both the sides. So you, in effect, have answered my second question, is overall what happens? Why do people fall? Because when I asked you about your personal things, you did mention your personal things, but you also mentioned the overarching reasons why people do things or things happen. So, but having said that, that you've already answered, I still want to ask, are there some things that you would like to highlight, not just in your case, and you can use your examples as well, but your examples and what you have learned from others that lead people into a situation that turns out to be a domestic violence? And it doesn't necessarily have to be an abusive verbal and physical, but a situation where you lose control, where you want to be nice and be good, because not because you want to be nice, but because you are good in the first place. You are a wonderful human being and you are taken advantage of. So would you like to elaborate on that?
yes, it happens so easily. People, they're looking for love, but like you said, love does not keep you from being abused. If that's the case, you know, a lot of people will not end up being abused. But just like the Bible says, the more I love you, the less I be loved, and that can happen. A lot of people stay in the abuse relationships because they think their love can change a person, or they feel like that they will be able to save a person, religiously. So in abuse is a lot of emotional abuse, verbal abuse. A verbal abuse is when someone is criticized, put down, made to feel bad about themselves, made to think bad about themselves. And so those type of situations can make a person stay in relationships because they feel like they're not good enough, and that nobody else would love them because they've been told by the abuser that nobody else will love you, that won't nobody believe you, that I'm doing this to you. And so it's just a lot of factors that go into why targets of abuse stay in relationships like that. A lot of times it's for religious reasons, traditions. They grew up, saying feeling like divorce is, should not be, that you
Mhm.
stay in the marriage regardless. A lot of times they do get bad advice from those that may be in the church. I know I got bad advice. I was just told that's just the way it is,
Mm.
and pretty much to stick it out. But one thing about abuse is that it grows. Um, and a lot of times you need to leave. And a lot of times you have to leave because abuse grows. The statistics show that like every day, 4 women are killed in from abuse, and 1 man are killed. Every day. And in the United States, 12 million people are abused every year. So it's a big problem. And the thing is, everyone knows someone. Abuse has grown so until it has become almost commonplace, is what is being said about domestic violence, intimate partner violence, and abuse, that is
So,
becoming commonplace.
mhm. So you mentioned
So,
4 women and 1 man is killed every day. So that is a 20% rate for men and 80% for women. Now,
mhm.
obviously, we are talking only and only about domestic situations. The man is killed because of a domestic situation, and so are the 4 women. But what I want to ask you, what are the external factors from the society, from the community? You did mention that people at church told you, well, yeah, just that is how it is. Uh,
Yes.
but apart from just, you can elaborate some things that you personally experienced from the church, but the society and community at large, what did you learn? What did you see and notice from several instances?
Okay. Well, I want to make a correction. It's 3 women every day that are killed and 1 man. I said 4, but it's 3 women.
Okay.
But what I've learned from my abuse experience is that domestic violence and intimate partner violence and abuse is spiritual warfare. It's spiritual warfare. And that my ministry is called, I'm the owner of the Jesus Way Ministries, LLC. And what my ministry wants to share and teach and expound is that you need spiritual guidance in order to be able to come out of abuse, ending the abuse, um, being a survivor of abuse, heal from abuse, and also to thrive. You're going to need spiritual guidance. And that's what I found out that I needed, because I started, trying to end abuse the wrong way.
Hmm.
I started, if I got verbal abuse, then I tried to give verbal, I gave verbal abuse back, you know, and also became a mutual abuser. And that's what can happen a lot of times with targets of abuse. They're angry about what's happening to them. So they can easily become a mutual abuser. They can easily, someone's cursing them, they curse back. Someone's hitting them, they hit back. But that does not work. That's what we're finding out from in society, that you cannot become a mutual abuser and be effective in becoming victorious in getting out of abuse. Um, and that's what I found out for myself. That I literally was not getting anywhere when I was doing what was being done to me, trying to do it back to the abuser. You
So
know,
is this particularly in your second marriage or first as well?
my first and second marriage.
Both
I
marriages.
learned
Okay.
I learned from my first marriage. I learned that it doesn't work. My first marriage, I was trying to be a mutual abuser back. If I got cursed, I cursed back. If I got hit, I hit back. But I learned that that didn't work. All it did was put you in regret, put you in shame, put you in guilt until you're not able to see clearly the right strategies and skills that are needed to get out of the abuse. When you do unto the abuser like the abuser's doing unto you, then you end up being trapped.
Mm.
You end up being trapped in the situation. Plus, abusers want their targets of abuse to abuse back. They
Really?
want them, yeah, they want to do that because that justifies their abuse. It makes them
Huh.
feel justified.
I see. So,
Uh-huh.
so many times what I have heard is that because the abused is the victim and takes or keeps on taking the abuse, then the abuser gets more power to keep on abusing over and over and over again on trivial matters. But what you are saying is that is not necessarily the case. The abuser, I mean, there are many, many examples and instances. So this is one example where you are emphasizing that it, it, the abuse can happen both ways, and the initiator of the abuse can feel that, hey, I mean, I'm in control and this is what it is. He can do it or she can do it, and keeps on doing it. Also, I'm also associated with uh, with other organizations also, and from what I find from some of the government departments within Shelby County is that many times the abusers do not even know what they are doing is termed as abuse, or the definition of abuse is something that they have done. And many who have been incarcerated or even jailed for a few days said, What did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong." So, I mean, that is a totally different topic. But I like the fact that you are kind of coming to one, focusing on one issue, that that abuse can very well be from both ends, and you realize that you had some inclination about that in your first marriage, and then you re-experienced it in your second. So now tell us, how did you come to a realization, and how long did it take for you to come to a realization, not that you were not in an abusive relationship, but how to turn it around and start something that could benefit everybody else?
Yes. Um, well, it's the plan of the abuser for the target of abuse to become a mutual abuser. That's what they want.
Mhm.
That's what a lot of times they will throw the rock and hide their hand, so to speak, because they want to then be calm and collected while the target of abuse reacts to what was done to them. But that doesn't work. What I learned and what got me victory was that you cannot do what the abuser's strategies and techniques are for the targets of abuse to become reactive. We have to stay in the Jesus way. And that's why my book is called, I have a book called Turning Your Captivity, Ending Abuse in Marriages and Relationships the Jesus Way.
Mhm.
Because what the spiritual guidance that I got showed me is that you have to not do what they're doing to you in order to be victorious. You know, the Bible says uh, to love your enemies. The Bible says to do good to those who hate you, to bless those that curse you. So instead of cursing back, what God showed me was to bless that person. And instead of um, doing evil for evil, do good to those that despitefully use you. You know, abuse is pretty much using someone the wrong way. AB means wrong, and then use means wrong use. So you're being wrongly used by the abuser, targets of abuse. Both men and women can be targets of abuse. They're being wrongly used. So you really have to get skilled up in the Jesus way, the right way to fight, because if you use the strategies and techniques that is being done to you, you don't win. Our words are powerful. Our words have the power of life and death. So if we're giving back death to the abuser, because the abuser's giving us death, that's all that's going to be reaped is death. But we give back life by blessing the person that cursed us, by saying no to the strategies and techniques. They trying to isolate you. Say no, I won't be isolated. They're trying to make you think bad about yourself. No, I don't receive that. They're trying to make you feel bad about yourself. No, I don't feel bad about myself. I don't receive that. And so you have to fight by, like Jesus did. Jesus just simply said in the Bible says, say yay or nay. That's all we need to say, because we can be trapped in our words. And that's what abusers try to do. They do try to trap the targets in their words. And so targets have to be smart about what the strategies and techniques are, and, have to be able to do it the right way.
Okay. And I noticed that your book has, was it 300 something pages?
Yes.
Okay. So we are going to talk about that in our next interview, because that is a huge topic in itself. Thank you. We definitely want to talk about it in depth, because when I looked it up, there are some points and topics that are mentioned, which I thought was, oh, wow. It was like, oh, yeah, these are definitely some of the topics that I've heard from other people who have gone through such things. And there are some who says, you know what, I did not do those things, but I see what the other person might be complaining about, even though I did not do that. There are different facts, even in one situation. Whenever there is some fight, they say there are three sides to everything. It is his side, her side, and the truth. So right, so there is something associated with that. But the fact is that we need to understand each and every single aspect. We have to have different angles, different views to know what we are talking about, so that we first understand. So once we understand, then we would be in a position to help others. So we will go into the book and several of its topics in few interviews that we'll schedule. However, today, with the time that is left, please tell us, apart from turning to religious means and methods, what were things in the society that led you to start a nonprofit to deal with domestic violence?
Well, usually whatever God rescues you from, excuse me, normally becomes your platform. And when God rescued me out of two abusive marriages, these are marriages that had grown to the showing of a gun, and the talk of wanting to kill. And so what society has shown me is that too many people, innocent people, are being killed needlessly because of abuse, because of violence. And so help is needed in the society to try to help victims of abuse. I have a cousin that was killed, a male cousin. So abuse happens to men and women. A male cousin that was killed by his intimate partner.
Oh, no. I'm
So
sorry to hear that.
Yes, and the thing is, what society is showing is that pretty much everyone knows someone affected by abuse. Everyone pretty much knows someone that has been killed by abuse.
And is this in Memphis, Tennessee itself? Your cousin's example?
Yes, my cousin lived in Mississippi, but was right close to the outskirts of Memphis.
Okay.
Yes, so yes, but abuse is happening all over the world. Abuse is worldwide. No one is safe from abuse. no one can say that they're exempt from abuse. It doesn't matter what city you're in. It doesn't matter what state you're in. And so what I found out also is that society, you know, a lot of times men or women may not know that they're abusers because they're familiar with it. You know, they've grown up, they have seen it. This is something they grew up with. And so it's familiar to them. Excuse me. Excuse me. And so they don't see it as abuse. A lot of times, because they grew up in abuse, they might not even be aware that they're being abused. That's why awareness is so important, so that we can make people that are being abused aware of what's happening to them, and resources that are available to them to get out of those situations. Because until you are aware, you're not able to change what you're not aware of. And so awareness is so important. You know, in our society, we have different resources available, you know, to help those nonprofit organizations and
Very true.
the state coalitions and state secretary, you know, have safety at home programs, and ADT has security. They united with the U.S. Justice Department to provide security for targets that you know, are trying to live free from abuse, you know, have relocated. And so there, you know, the domestic violence hotline provided help to targets of abuse, you know, which is the hotline number is 1-800-799-SAFE, SAFE, you know, where they can go and get counseling, emotional support, assistance getting shelter, financial assistance, you know, with their travel and relocating and rent and different things like that. Crisis counseling. So
Good. So these are some important points you brought, and resources that are there, but people really don't know. They don't venture out to find out information on these resources, because for them, whatever is going on is just part of life. That, hey, I mean, this is what is it. And at one time, then things go beyond, and then say, I've been abused, and then they have to find out. So I would love to get more into all of these resources as well. But as we come to the end of this interview, I definitely want to thank you for taking our time and talking to us. And the intention obviously is to spread the message of love, peace, and harmony. But at times we have to talk about some bad things, and then when we talk about those, we know that this is what that bad is. That is how we define it. And we know, once we know what the problem is, what the issues are, then we know how to overcome them, or at least we can find ways of overcoming them. Once we overcome them, then you get into that positive field. And this obviously is what the aim of the show and the nonprofit is. And we definitely thank you that you are part and parcel of making this happen, not only in our community, not only on this show, but helping so many people through your book. So thank you so much for coming on to our show.
yes, and I also do community work as well. You know, I've taught domestic violence awareness classes at the Shelby County Correctional Facility, the men's jail. I've taught it at Mark Luttrell, which was at one point a correctional facility for women. Also got my training from Women Empowered to Become Self-Sufficient. You know, Pat Culp is over that organization. And also currently I teach domestic violence awareness and Bible studies to women that are recovering from domestic violence, recovering from substance abuse, recovering from homelessness, and Ladies in Need Can Survive. and that's nonprofit organization with Wanda Taylor. And so it's a lot of things in the community that we can do to help bring awareness to domestic violence, to help victims of domestic violence. It's so necessary. And one main point that I want to make before we close is that, domestic violence, the target of abuse is in captivity and the abuser is in captivity. The abuser may think they have it going on and that they're in control, and that, nobody can pull nothing over on them, but they're in captivity as well. Because, if you believe in God, you got to believe in spiritual enemy, foes, and adversaries against God, who are the ones that devise these strategies and techniques that are being used and influence abusers to carry them out, against the targets of abuse. So abusers are in captivity as well. And that's what the Jesus Way ministry, endorses, letting abusers know that they need to turn from their captivity and the targets of abuse, because they are under the influence of the abusers' strategies and techniques. They have to turn from the abuser, from what the abuser is doing. So both are in captivity, the target and the abuser themselves.
So
And both need
thank you.
spiritual
Thank you,
guidance.
Miss Sandra. We definitely have come to the end of this show.
Okay.
But we know that we have a whole lot to cover, and we will definitely cover and go in depth with what we have to discuss. So thank you once again for coming on to our show.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for having me.
And have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.